Hello and welcome back to Typical City, everyone. This is your latest Manchester City news and transfer news. A lot to get through today. Are Manchester City about to stick a knife right into the back of Erik ten Hag's plans and Manchester United's transfer plans with a bid for Frankie De Jong? And in other news, we've got plenty of outgoings, which some I'm okay with, some I'm not so okay with. All the way through the whole setup at City as well. We're talking first team players, youth team players, and even some backroom staff. Assistant manager Rodolfo Burrell, who's played a key role in Manchester City's success over 9 years at the club. And are FIFA about to change the offside rule that will definitely improve chances for Erling Haaland and the rest of the strikers in the league, but namely in City's interest, the likes of Alvarez and Haaland in particular, who will constantly sit on the shoulder of defenders relentlessly. And is it going to give him an advantage to get even more goals under his belt next season? We have to wait and see. But let's start with Frankie De Young. Are City about to enter a bid war with United? Are United even still in for him? Because with the signing of Mason Mount, we know that United's transfer kitty isn't quite as big as they would hope for with the ongoing sale plans for Qatar or Ratcliffe. We're not sure who they're going to end up selling to yet, and that has completely bollocksed up their plans for transfer, certainly incoming transfers, and Mason Mount has gone over the line. So are they going to go and spend 90 million is the rumoured figure for Frankie De Jong, a player that's very much the finished article compared to Gabriel Vega, who City have also been linked with, who's more of a potential prospect. Could even be brought in to go out on loan. I doubt that at his age he's probably going to be brought into the first team and stay with City, but he's got a lot of work that needs doing. He's a bit raw. He's coming from a relegation battling Celta Vigo, whereas Frankie De Jong is a born winner. Barcelona, he very much hit the heights that Xavi wanted him to hit last season, albeit his stats aren't great with 33 appearances, 2 goals and 4 assists, but he does fit the bill. Pep Guardiola already tried to sign him in 2019 and failed with that, with an improved contract offer from Barcelona. So I'm not convinced that Pep's gone quiet on Frankie De Jong. I still think he might have a soft spot for him. He does have that ability to drop into defensive midfield, and whether the Declan Rice deal falling through now means City move their attention to Frankie De Jong, it would be a blockbuster signing. It'd be a signing that would sell shirts, that's without doubt, but it would also fit perfectly into replacing Gundogan and the system, most notably, that City are going to try to implement next season with 2 defensive midfielders, the system that we saw working so well, the system that won us a treble last season with Rodri and John Stones. I would like to take the pressure off John Stones and know that we've got him if we need him, and playing in that role, we have assurances that there's a quality player that can step into defensive midfield and do a fantastic job. But to depend on John Stones throughout the whole season is something I'm not too comfortable with. And Frankie De Jong is someone who could definitely step into that role, because at times last season we saw John Stones more in the attacking half and bursting forward, getting shots away on the edge of the area. So that versatility between Rodri and John Stones being able to come back, one covers the other as the other one pushes forward and vice versa. So Frankie De Jong fits the bill for me, and he can step into creative midfield in the attacking role, in the Gundogan role namely, alongside De Bruyne, or maybe even Phil Foden if Foden's going to be starting midfield for the rest of the season. But the question is, how much truth does this story even have legs? Are City genuinely interested in Frankie De Jong? I like the idea, but are City becoming the puppet masters of the transfer market? Are we pulling strings and making other clubs dance to our tune by getting involved in transfer dealings where it's just one club versus another club and they're trying to negotiate a deal? Then City come in and we hike up the bids of Arsenal's bids for Declan Rice. We've done it in the past with Maguire, Fred, Jorginho to Chelsea. Numerous players City have got involved in that we've walked away from. Could we about to scare United and make them come in with a rash bid for Frankie De Jong, pay over the odds for him out of fear that City are going to sign him? And this is it's a very calculated and tactic. It's very savvy in the way that they're trying to reshape the image that City have in the world of football, in particular in the financial world of football, where City just are cavalier with their spending. They buy who they want, they spend what they want. When you look at the figures, it's not true. It's absolutely not true. But the layman needs to be educated, and they need to understand that City aren't going to be bent over a barrel, whereas United and Arsenal and numerous other clubs that City have got involved with, Chelsea in particular as well, another club that can continue to spend outrageous figures on players. And we are highlighting their spends, how much they want to expend on players. And we're highlighting it because City were in for him. Oh, no, they pulled out. Oh, but look who did buy him. Look who did spend all that money. Arsenal spent 105, or about to spend 105 million on Declan Rice. United, oh, they did spend 80 million on Harry Maguire. City walked away. So who's the smart one out of the two? Who's the cavalier one out of the two clubs when we're spending 60 million on Ruben Diaz and they're spending 80 million on Harry Maguire? Which one's the savvy one in that situation and which one's the cavalier one? It's a no-brainer, in truth. So you wonder if City are genuinely going to get involved in the Frenkie De Jong, or are we poking the bear of Manchester United? And it's a quivering bear at the minute, a very wet and damp bear that is not really got much bite to it at the minute, and it's not really got the pull that it used to have, whereas City, they get involved, players tend to want to come and play for them. But over to the outgoings, and there's numerous outgoings to City. Walker is a player that's been rumoured to be going to Bayern Munich, or Bayern Munich at least interested in him. And the stronger rumour is he doesn't want to go, which is great news. Great news. The likely replacement is Hakimi from PSG, a great player, not a Kyle Walker player. If you asked me to pick out of the two, I would definitely keep Kyle Walker, namely because of the system that Pep is likely to implement next season and continue to go with three at the back. Now, Walker, we can trust him. He's not got the technical ability of Hakimi. He's certainly got speed on his side, because Hakimi is not slow, don't get me wrong. But Hakimi is more of a Cancelo-style player, more of a technical fullback, and one that you wouldn't ask to go into centre-back, or even go into a three as a centre-back, because his one-on-one ability is fantastic. He definitely is brilliant in 1v1s. He can win a tackle, and he is a defending fullback as much as he is. He's a quality player, Hakimi, don't get me wrong, but Kyle Walker has that centre-back physicality, Premier League experience under his belt, and I think he's got a couple of years of those legs still being as quick as they are. At least a couple of years, because there was no signs of him slowing down last season, and the amount of times that Kyle Walker bailed us out of situations, namely in the Real Madrid game against Vinicius Jr., that springs to mind, and numerous other examples of oppositions attempting to counter-attack on us, and he bails us out numerous times, and he is going to be that player that once he's gone, we'll miss him more than we think we were going to miss him. He's going to be one of those players, Kyle Walker. The other one that's not got legs to it yet, and I think that's dependent on City signing Josko Gvardiol, which has gone quiet, very, very quiet. And RB Leipzig, are they playing hardball? Are they asking for too much money? Is this a City situation where they don't want to walk away from it? Because Pep, he adamantly wants Gvardiol. He absolutely wants him. So are City going to end up having to break the bank a little bit more than they're willing to get their man? But as a result of that, what about Aymeric Laporte? A quality player. We saw him in tears at the end of last season before doing the walk of honour around the stadium to showcase the Premier League trophy. We saw him in tears, which was an indication that his time at City is up. But Aston Villa are the rumoured outfit to be interested in Laporte, and whether they get their man. If they get their man, what a signing that'll be for Aston Villa. An incredible player, a really, really good player. I mean, too good to go up alongside Mings. You know what I mean? He's far too good for that. But, you know, Laporte is a quality player, left-sided player, that I think that transfer is waiting on the Gvardiol situation, which is a shame because you don't want City players. Because if we don't get Gvardiol, we don't want to be left with players that we let them know that we had intentions of selling them, and then we're stuck with them, because then I'm sure they're professional enough and they'll want to continue playing for the club and they'll put in a shift no matter what. That's what you hope. But in the back of their mind, they're going to think, well, you wanted to sell me and now I'm stuck here. You didn't want me 10 minutes ago. You wanted Gvardiol. So they want to feel loved, players. They want an arm around the shoulder. They want to feel wanted, don't they? So Laporte doesn't fit that bill right now. I'm not sure City want him. I'm sure he's a quality player, don't get me wrong. But if Gvardiol becomes available and we agree a deal, then I do think Laporte is on his way out. Mahrez is another one that's rumoured to be on his way out, and Bernardo Silva is another one. These are world-class players that this is going to be a very... We talked about transitions, we talked about it last season and how Erling Haaland, the introduction of him and City are going through a transition. I think that was a drop in the ocean of a transition. That was a tiny, tiny transition. It was a transition, don't get me wrong, getting used to a very different type of player, being that holding number 9 position that Erling Haaland did. It was something we didn't even play with a number 9 last season. We had it was an attacking midfielder pushing up, and Bernardo Silva, Phil Foden filling that role and doing really good job of it as well. That was a small transition compared to this type of transition where we've got an abundance of players that could be leaving the club, and it's no easy task to go from a treble winning season and then the following season having lost 4, 5, maybe even 6 key players as well as some members of the backroom staff, and still hit the ground running and continue on that same vein of form that we had at the end of last season. It's hard to imagine that we'll be able to do it, to be honest, because I mean, City fans need to set their expectations realistically, that you do have down times where clubs need to refresh the whole roster of the whole squad needs a little bit of a refresh. And during those situations, you're going to have some downtime where the results aren't quite as good as you want. The performances aren't quite as good as you want them to be because new players are being bedded into the squad. They're learning Pep Guardiola's ways. But if there is a team and a manager in particular that can do it, it's Pep Guardiola. He absolutely can do it. And we're notoriously slow starters to the season anyway. So you like to think that if we can stay within touching distance of whoever is taking that top spot, even if it is us, if we're in touching distance of that Premier League top spot by the end of Christmas, that regardless of it being a transitional season, you know Pep Guardiola is going to motivate every single one of those players to be gunning down or maintaining their top spot for the second half of the season, regardless of whether it's a transition or not. But Mahrez supposedly going to Al Ahly, could be potentially waiting on Edouard Mendy from Chelsea and Roberto Firmino from Liverpool to join. And once they've completed those signings, Mahrez is apparently their next target. That would be a shame to lose Mahrez because he offers something very different to the City team. Not many players can do what he does. He slows the game down. His level of composure is next to none. That first touch is just sublime. Absolutely outrageous first touch. And he has this ability to just kill the game, slow it down. When everything's frantic, the pressure is high. Champions League semi-finals, he'll kill the game, he'll slow it down, and he'll just find that killer pass or whip one into the top corner, and his left foot is just something out of this world at times. It really, really is. And in smaller news, with lesser players, we've got Rory Delap on loan to Hull, and Brighton are in for Cole Palmer. Cole Palmer has a mixed bag for feelings for me. Mainly because of he didn't grab every opportunity that was given last season with both hands, but at the end of last season, he was given a couple of opportunities. Azpilicueta, he went up against Chelsea, and he absolutely rinsed him. The whole game, he had him on toast, spreading him like butter. Wherever he wanted, Cole Palmer was beating him left, right and centre, and it was a fantastic performance from Cole Palmer. The decision making is the side of his game that needs to be fixed, and I think Brighton, if you get first team football at Brighton, Cole Palmer and playing in that team, that's a perfect place to go on loan. Don't let him play against us. Obviously, we need to add that stipulation. Make sure he can't play against us, of course. But Cole Palmer would be a great addition to Brighton. No need to add any buyback clause or option to buy for Brighton, because I do see his future at City potentially, certainly as a squad player for the future. And if he plays his cards right and keeps knuckles down, keeps working hard, he could work his way into the first team exactly as Foden's doing. But he's another one. Now, Rodolfo Burrell, I've actually met the man. I've played football numerous times at five-a-side, and he used to pick his daughter up from where I played five-a-side, and I had a few chats with him there, and he's such a nice guy, really nice bloke. He used to watch me play football, so I'd put in that extra 5% just in case he saw me and said, there's this lad who I watch play five-a-side, and we need to get him to play for City. And it would be me playing for City. Can you imagine? Obviously, dreaming out of this world, there's not a chance in hell I could play for City. But you can dream. We can dream. But I did speak to him, and his involvement in the squad has been thorough. Very much the nucleus of Pep and his plans. We've had other Mikel Arteta's left, and we didn't see the damage of that too bad. I think the squad looked up to Mikel Arteta, but he's going to Rodolfo Burrell's going to Austin, as a sporting director now, so it's not like he's going to go away to a club locally to us or within the country and hurt us as the manager of another club, so it's not quite the same as Mikel Arteta, but you do wonder, these are the sort of positions and roles in the club that, to the untrained eye and to behind the scenes, it can have a bigger effect than just players, and the players' overall day-to-day happiness of having Rodolfo Burrell there or not having someone there could play a part. They could miss him. The players could be used to his way of doing things. He must be good for Pep to keep you alongside him for 9 years. He must be good. He must be good doing things. He was always the first to celebrate as well when he jumped out of his seat alongside Pep. So we could end up missing Rodolfo Burrell. And then onto that offside rule that I promised you as well with FIFA and Arsene Wenger, namely. He's the one who's been championing this change. And I was basically, I'm not convinced how... What it's going to do is going to introduce more goals to the game. So from a neutral perspective, from the entertainment factor, we're going to see more goals. And that is exciting. But the purist who wants to focus on the little nitty-gritty details of offside, basically what the law is suggesting, that instead of any part of your body that you can score with being one little nose hair or millimetre offside on this side of the line, means you're offside. That's the current rule as it stands. Now what they're saying is that your whole body can be past the line as long as the one part of your body that you can score with is touching the line. Now players are going to find ways, intelligent players like Haaland are going to find ways to utilise that rule if it comes into play. If FIFA introduced this rule, it's a massive change, and what an advantage it gives to Erling Haaland, the speed that he's got already. If he's onside by a millimetre, then he's past you. There are very few defenders that can catch Erling Haaland once he's past you. And now you're saying you're giving him a full body length of advantage. That's huge. Even when the ball's coming across for hard and low crosses or even a chipped cross, when the ball's being crossed in, just having that edge and being able to be closer to the keeper gives the crosser of the ball an advantage, because it gives them a bigger gap between the keeper and the defender to find that sweet spot in the box, to whip it in there and get it in that gap, that killer instinct for Haaland or Alvarez to get a tap in. So that's a huge advantage to the striker. Whether this happens this season, it's not likely. I don't know when the rule's actually going to be implemented, and even if it is, but what a change in the game that would be. I mean, I'm not convinced Erling Haaland's going to score as many goals as he did last season, because I think the end of last season we saw a little dip in his form. He ended the season with 1 goal in 8. Now, by any striker's standards, that is a barren run. Not even Haaland's standard. 1 goal at the start of the season, 1 goal in 2 games was Haaland's barren run. That was like, oh, I haven't scored for 5 minutes, right? He's out of form. Whereas any striker who hasn't scored who's only scored 1 goal in 8, that's barren. That is a barren run. Hopefully he can hit the ground running like he did last season, go into that. But with this new offside rule, whenever it is implemented, that's certainly going to give him the advantage. But lots of news to get through today. What do you think, Blues? Get in the comments below. I would love to hear your thoughts on all the topics that I've covered today. Like and subscribe. Typical City is the channel, and I will see you in the next one.
This is Typical City now, holding up silver.